That voice, raw, soulful, and obviously powerful, is among the first things that spring to mind when you hear the name Michael English. His delivery is both delicate and thundering, and his vocal runs are full of emotion. He was one of the most well-known figures in the Gaither Vocal Band, Southern Gospel, and even contemporary Christian music, CCM, for many years. But Michael's journey is not just about his musical prowess. It's also about his personal failure, humiliation in front of others, agonizing recovery, and unwavering grace. Understanding Michael English is comprehending a man who has experienced both praise and criticism, emancipation and elevation, destruction and reconstruction. Millions have been inspired by his journey because it was genuine, not because it was flawless. Occasionally, you will hear a voice that stops you cold, not merely sings to you. It tugs at parts of your spirit that you were unaware needed to be healed. Michael English was that voice for a lot of people in the gospel and modern Christian music communities. Gritty but smooth, strong but begging, ability to soar through the air 1 minute and cry in the dust the next. Without a doubt, Michael English was anointed and not simply another vocalist. However, he sank as fast as he had risen. His decline in popularity was startling to many. It was quick, public, and humiliating. Michael's personal failure was greeted with condemnation rather than compassion in a society that frequently does not allow for imperfection, particularly in the ministry. The same group of people who had earlier praised him turned against him. However, God did not. Michael's narrative isn't neat, tidy, or simple. It's disorganized, uncooked, uncomfortable at times. However, it's also incredibly human, a proof that grace doesn't retire when we fail and that failure isn't the end. For everyone who has ever stood atop a mountain and then fallen to the valley, this is a tale. For everyone who has ever carried the burden of shame and questioned whether their voice, mission, or calling could ever be trusted again. It's for folks who understand what it's like to be rejected by others, but not by God. The valley was not where Michael English stayed. He nearly gave up, but he persisted. He underwent a protracted and difficult healing process. From the debris, he rebuilt. He came back to stand where grace had brought him without trying to prove anything to anyone. There is more to this story than just a vocalist. It has to do with a soul. It's about atonement that says, "You're still mine even in the face of public failure." It's about the kind of retort that already has something better, mercy, and doesn't require praise. Thus, if you're prepared for more than just news stories, if you're craving tales of genuine rehabilitation and fed up with cancel culture, for evidence that God continues to utilize broken people, lean in after that, because Michael English's tale is worth believing in, not just worth sharing. The voice that could not be ignored in the early days. Michael English was born in 1962 in Kenonville, North Carolina, and grew up in a devout Pentecostal household. His lifeline was music from a young age. In church, Michael's voice was distinctive, and it quickly became apparent that he was more than just a singer. He joined the Southern gospel group, the Singing Americans, in the early 1980s, and his powerful voice soon attracted national notice. But when he joined Bill Gaither's Gaither Vocal Band in 1985, his career took a dramatic turn for the better. Michael's voice rose there. His fervent, soul-filled performance was a major factor in the immediate success of songs like "I Bowed on My Knees and Cried Holy" and "No Other Name But Jesus." He contributed an uncommon R&B texture to Southern gospel, which helped the group's sound and audience grow. Michael was the focal point of GVB's emotions for about 10 years. He received accolades, was booked by churches, and was adored by his fans. He was a famous figure in Christian music. However, stability isn't always a result of success, and Michael was having difficulties behind the voice. The fall, disgrace, quietness, and disgrace. Michael English was at the height of his solo career in 1994. In addition to winning Artist of the Year at the Dove Awards, the greatest night in the Christian music industry, he had just released an album that was topping the charts. But everything fell apart in a matter of days. It was revealed that Michael had an affair with another Christian music performer outside of his marriage. He admitted it, after elevating him to the rank of an icon. The Christian Dev Awards backed him. He was dropped by his record label. There were no concerts. He moved from being adored to being shamed overnight. This was a spiritual and emotional breakdown in addition to a setback to one's job. It would turn out to be one of the worst periods of Michael's life. He struggled with guilt, lost his sense of value, and attempted to deal with the aftermath in a society that wasn't forgiving. Isolation and addiction. Michael attempted to rebuild after the scandal, but sorrow and sadness got in the way. He acknowledged getting hooked to prescription pills in his memoirs. What started out as medicine for a back problem evolved into a coping strategy for more serious injuries. This is arguably the most human aspect of his trip. The man behind the voice was suffering from rejection, remorse, and the gradual loss of his identity. Michael slipped out of the public eye for years. Every now and again he would perform, but the joy was gone. He had to restore his soul, not his profession, for the world had moved on. The path to salvation. Honesty marked the beginning of the pivotal moment. Michael reconnected with his faith, went to treatment, and began therapy, not as a show but as a private surrender. He started talking candidly about his errors, not to justify them but to reveal the brokenness that so many people conceal beneath their achievements. He cautiously made his way back to the stage, this time as a wounded healer rather than a star. Even more passion was in his voice, which had been tempered by time and hardship. His message changed from image to integrity, from perfection to grace. Michael was accepted back into the Gaither family in the late 2000s, albeit not with fanfare but with forgiveness. Known for giving people second chances, Bill Gaither encouraged him to take part in Gaither homecoming activities. It was emotional for the fans. It prompted tears to see Michael stand with his bandmates once more, especially as they sang songs like I Believe in a Hill Called Mount Calvary, not just for the music but also for the message of redemption it conveyed. Subsequent career and legacy. Michael English has kept recording, touring, and telling his tale in recent years. Songs like Some People Change and Worship show a man who sings to observe rather than to impress. He frequently discusses the value of second chances, the perils of hubris, and forgiveness. His concerts are full of ministry as well as music. He shares candidly how God never gave up on him, even when he gave up on himself. He talks as much as he sings. There is more to Michael English's legacy than just his voice. It has to do with restoration. He demonstrates that when grace intervenes, failure does not disqualify you. Grace that continues to sing with its high notes, fractured lyrics, and unending chorus of grace. Michael English's life is a gospel song unto itself. His narrative says, yes, to everybody who has ever failed, been condemned, or questioned whether they could be used again. You can still do it. His fall was made public. He was genuine when he broke. And when he came back, he was a damaged man who had been restored to wholeness rather than the golden boy. Witnessing a fallen voice rise is a sacred experience. Michael's return was modest rather than ostentatious. The focus was on testimony, not applause. He didn't return claiming his former position of prominence. He returned pleading to serve the unforsaken God. That's the gospel, isn't it? That our actions are not the worst. Endings are rewritten by that grace. Unlike shame, that mercy endures. That guard is an expert at getting singers back on stage, not to brag, but to exalt him. In Christ alone I place my trust, Michael once sung. Those words struck a different chord. After all, they are more than simply lyrics now. They're a matter of survival. They are the truth. They are everything. Even now, Michael English's singing has the depth that only brokenness can provide. It is audible in every note. Not only suffering, but also atonement. Hope, not just grief. Presence, not just performance. He is not Michael English from the 90s. He's improved. Not because he is more well-known, but rather because he is more obedient. Perhaps that is the lesson we should all learn, that failure need not be irreversible, that you may use your platform as a pulpit, that you can write songs about your scars. The affair may never be forgotten by Michael English, but he doesn't have to, because he is a real example of how grace triumphs over guilt.